What's up, gangsters? How about episode 19.5 of this little adventure? Yeah, this thing I thought was going to wrap at 20 episodes, but it's not, because this episode that you're about to see was not supposed to happen. This is an unscheduled interruption. You know how they say that into every life a little rain must fall? Yeah. That includes the life of this little project right here. Had a little bit of a disaster, nothing that couldn't be recovered from, and you're about to see what happened and how I get myself out of it. So, let's take a look. Okay, so yesterday I decided to take all the masks off since the airframe is done, and that went fine, at least in the beginning. The bubble top looks good. Everything looks pretty crisp there. No issues, so that's always nice. And I removed the masking canopy that I had on here. Nothing weird going on there, but you guys may remember about 50 episodes back where I said that I had noticed a little bit of extra thin going under the masks that were on the windscreen, and that I had looked and looked and thought I was okay. Well, yeah, that was really stupid, because you cannot get extra thin anywhere near masking tape without it wicking underneath it, and I know that. But I was in denial because I wanted to keep moving forward. And now I'm about to pay for that, because you can see right there that in fact I've got a major flaw on the right hand side of the canopy, the windscreen right there. Yeah, that is not good. So what to do? Because obviously I'm not going to let that stand. So there are several options how to tackle this, but you know, this will be a good sort of problem-solving addition to this video. So, here we go. The first thing that I'm going to do is protect the surrounding area, because while it may prove to be impossible, I am always optimistic that just about anything can be fixed, and if you do it carefully enough without any major disasters. I mean, honestly, I've fixed some things that were way worse than this, but the question here is whether or not it can be fixed and look good. Because, yeah, I mean, there's several issues here. The fact that it's up against the painted frame being number one. I don't think there's any way I'm going to get it done without having to repaint the frame, and that's not a big deal. I don't mind doing that. That's easy. I mean, heck, if that's the worst that happens out of this enterprise, then I'll be grateful. But I just don't know that it's going to be possible to actually remove and polish that flaw so that it looks okay. And that's what this basically is going to involve. There really is no way around something like this other than sanding and polishing. So how am I going to get in there and do that? All right, my first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get my Optivisor on my face, and I'm going to get in there and first do a little bit of scraping. I find that that's generally a good move, because I don't know if it's even possible to really get a good close-up view of what's going on here, but let's try. This is you can see there that, you know, you've got a kind of a mashup of wrinkled plastic and maybe some sort of bubbles and pits. I don't know. I mean, it's, you know, one of the challenges is that it's difficult to really see. But bottom line is that I've got an uneven surface there. And the first thing that I want to do is try and level it out. So this is a great little scraping tool. This number 15 scalpel blade should enable me to work pretty precisely. And I'll be able to tell pretty quickly when I start dragging it across there how uneven that surface is. And it definitely is. So what I'm trying to do is just scrape down to the edge of the canopy frame. Not so much because I'm trying to preserve the paint. That's just not going to happen. But because I don't want to screw up the molded in edge. I don't want to lose the definition there of that detail. So I want to try and stay off of that as much as possible. Alright, so after that little bit of work, you can see that one of the challenges, the main challenge, is that I've got some bubbles in there, little pits, pock marks, whatever you want to call them, that are deeper than the surrounding area. And the bottom line is I've got to get rid of those. So scraping is going okay. But I decided that I might have a little bit more control if I switched from this over to this skinny little Suji Burrito file, which is just a whole bunch of little bitty scrapers. So I'm going to make a few more passes here until I get rid of the pits, and then we'll have a look. Okay, so I've done okay with getting the pits out. I think that's pretty reasonable. It's not perfect, but I think I'm at the point where I need to switch tactics. So, next up is going to be some sanding. So what I've got out here is my Infinity sanding pads, and I'm going to be disciplined about this. I'm going to start at 600, and I'm going to work my way all the way up through 1500, and then I've got a 3000 grit tamiya pad, and I'll use that.
Para mi gente, con una pasión tan fuerte. Ay, ay, ay.
All right, so I'm set here. I've got my gripper, and I've got a patch cut from each grit. So let me get started with that, and we'll see what shapes up after I work through that progression. Hopefully it'll be good, and then I can just polish it out.
Ahora sigo cantando y sigo gozando. Yo sigo cantando y sigo gozando.
Alright, so I've made my grit progression, and it's really important to do that in a situation like this especially, because I don't have the luxury of being able to switch directions every time I switch or go up a grit step. So got to be disciplined because I don't want to leave any scratches in there, but you can see it's starting to clear up. And I think this is going about as well as I could hope for in a situation like this. Now, I've run out of grit in my sanding sponges, so I'm going to now have to switch to some sanding sticks. And as you know, maybe, Infinity has both a 2500 and a 4000. This makes me think I need to add, well, I was going to say that I need to add those grits to my Infinity pad collection, but I'm not sure that they make them in those grits. Anyway, don't have them, so I'm going to switch over to the Infinity sticks, like that. There's the 4000. And I'm just going to have to be super careful and hope that I can get in there well enough to get done what I need to do. Otherwise, I'm going to find myself maybe having to chop one of these up and get some little pieces that I can put in my tweezers. So, we'll see. Okay, so you can see where I am at this point, and you notice that I was switching back and forth between the Infinity stuff and these little pieces of these UMP buffers. I find that it's kind of weird. You just have to develop a feel for this. I went backwards from the Tamiya 3000 for a second there to this Infinity 2500 because I actually feel like this is a little less aggressive. And then I tried to use this green part because I feel like it's somewhere in between that and the 4000 grit. And then basically these are essentially the same. That's just a pure buffing thing. And it's not bad. My main issue is just being able to kind of get down into the corner there. But it's not bad. And I think that I could probably continue and get this done by hand. And that's really what I wanted to do, was get it all done by hand, because not everybody has motorized polishers. And obviously, once you switch to power tools, things can get a little bit more dicey. But you're also going to get the best polish when you apply some horsepower. So, that being said, I'm going to reach in there just a little bit with this cloth buffing wheel and some polishing compound on my Proxon, and we'll see how we do. Alright, so what I do with this is I run it at about 10,000, and you really have to use these cloth wheels. Do not ever use felt on plastic, because you will melt the shit out of it with a quickness. And what I like for polishing clear parts is this ZAM compound. This is pretty commonly found in industrial model making shops, and those guys use it for polishing Lexan, acrylic, plexiglass, whatever you want to call it. And it's really handy because you just get some on the wheel by running it in there, and it's nice because you don't get the splatter that you're gonna get with a liquid polishing compound, especially one that's, you know, really liquid like Novus or something like that. Now, with this, it's really important to be cognizant of what direction you're going, because if you grab an edge, you know, this thing can jerk and get out of hand. You could jerk a part off. You know, that's when things can really go wrong. There's no danger in melting anything with this. That's a common misconception. You know, using motor tools, there's really not any danger of that if you're doing it right, using the correct type of wheel. But you can, you know, things can get grabby, and you have to always be careful of that. All right, and there we go. That actually does not look too bad. One reason that I knew that this was probably going to be possible was because it's a convex surface that I can easily get to on the outside there. And you can see it's cleared up pretty well. There's still a little bit of a bubble there. That's not good, obviously, but I just don't know that I'm going to get that all the way out. That part there towards the middle is going to get covered up when I put the bulletproof screen on. And so now I just need to decide how to work down in that corner right there at the bottom, because I'm not getting in there with any of the tools. So I'm going to keep tinkering with it, see where I get. Okay, so I've just squirted out a little bit of this Shoal Concepts S3 Gold. This is the heavy cut formula. And this is stuff that I have for polishing clear urethane gloss. And this is pretty expensive stuff. Not the kind of thing that I would expect a lot of guys to have around unless you're a serious car or motorcycle model maker, because it is professional grade stuff that is specifically made for polishing out clear urethanes, and it's pretty magical. And I'm going to try to use the point of a Q-tip with some of it on there to get down into that corner that's resisting me. So we'll see what happens there. Alright, so that took some polishing and getting in there, and had to go back in with some sanding again, because part of the reason I was struggling down here in this corner was because there was an area that just had not gotten sanded out before. So let me pull this tape off of here and let's see how things look overall. Alright, so there it is. All things considered, I would say not too bad. It's not perfect, but I'm going to just, study on it a little bit and see if I think it's good enough to move forward with. It's obviously one of those things, if you look at it in exactly the right way, you're going to see the flaw. And obviously I lost some paint off the frame there. That's not a big deal. I actually lost less than I thought I would, and I'm going to have to repaint that, but not a big deal. I would say overall, remarkably successful at this point. Okay, so there we go. That was a little bit of a ball buster, but it's done and fixed. I don't think it's too bad, especially now once the bulletproof windscreen portion is attached on there. I think it's going to look just fine, and that nobody who doesn't know will know. So, yeah, that happened. Hopefully you guys can see a couple of important lessons from this, but the number one lesson is that there is never a better time to unfuck that shit than right now. As soon as you know it happened, fix it. Just make yourself do it, because it's not going to get better, It's only going to get harder, and you really just have to get it out of the way. And don't live in denial for the remainder of the project like I was doing, so that you can then find out, you know, later on when it is a lot harder, that you're going to have to do what you should have done in the first place. And this actually is not the only one. I had a little tiny sliver of white that popped out on one of my roundels. And it actually happened when I was filming, I don't know, 3 or 4 episodes back. I was cleaning a bit of excess panel line wash off, just kind of absently, you know, doing it while I was chattering away to you guys, not really paying attention to what I was doing. And there was just enough mineral spirits on that Q-tip, and the paint around the edge of that roundel was just thin enough that I rubbed it right off, and there was just a light little sliver that was showing there, and I knew it happened right when I did it. And I just kept ignoring it and kept ignoring it and thinking, you know what, if nobody else sees it, I'll call it all good. Well, sure enough, a day or two ago, I posted some photos on SMCG, and one of the guys there saw it and absolutely fairly and correctly called me on it, and had to fix that too. And that was a real disaster story, because I thought that I was going to fix it with just a little bit of blue oils, just because I thought, you know what, I can take care of that, it won't show. Yeah, that was wrong, because after digging my rarely used tube of indigo blue out of the very back of the oil paint drawer, I spilled the entire drawer on the floor, like 30 tubes of oil paint. Did the work, realized that it looked exactly like what it was, which was a very poorly repaired flaw, and ended up having to go back, erase all that, go get the cutting machine off the shelf where I store it, fire you know, Silhouette Studio up again, cut another mask, put it back, you know, put it on the model. Anyway, the point is, that's kind of lesson number 2. Don't just try to ignore it and think you're going to get away without fixing it. Go ahead, fix it right now, and fix it correctly. No matter how much trouble it seems like it's going to be, it is always way less trouble than trying to take shortcuts and weasel your way out of it like a lazy little bitch, which is what I did. So yeah, don't be that guy. Don't be like me. Anyway, I hope that this was, yeah, a little bit of an unscheduled episode that served some sort of a valuable purpose. And you guys can see that, yeah, my die first and then quit shirt is especially appropriate today. Anyway, as always, I appreciate you guys watching. Much love.